Okay, this video lesson is going to be on simple and compound interest. So we're going to look at simple interest first. I will always give you these formulas, but let's just go over what they stand for. So interest is what you pay to the bank when you borrow the bank's money, or the bank pays you when you deposit money. Simple interest is one type of the fee that is paid for the use of money. So the formula is I equals P times R times T. I is the interest, P is the principal, and the principal is the amount borrowed or the amount invested. R is your rate of interest, or what they're going to pay you, a percentage of your money, and it's always converted to a decimal. And then T is the time that the money is borrowed or invested in years. So if they give it to you in months, make sure you recalculate it into years. So let's just go ahead and forge forth here. So to buy a car, Jessica borrowed $15,000 for 3 years at an annual simple interest rate of 9%. How much interest will she pay on the entire loan at the end of the year? So you can see, I'll just make it a little bigger here. We're going to use that formula, I equals P times R times T. Since the principal is the $15,000 that she borrowed, that's going to go in for our P. You can see that the T is going to be 3 years, and they've already given it to you in years, so that's good. And then they give you the interest rate as a percentage. Remember, we did this already, turning percents into decimals. All you have to do is either divide your 9 by 100 or just move the decimal place over twice. So 9%, decimals right here, I'm just going to move it over 2 times, and now it becomes a decimal. So that lesson was on Monday. And then I'm just going to use my calculator and solve it. So I have 15,000, and it's a multiplication problem, times 0.09 times 3. So after a 3-year loan, she's going to pay $4,050 in interest. So simple interest is just that, simple. So here we go. Elaine borrowed $2,000 for 3 years at a simple interest rate of 5%. So you can see I've already turned that 5% into a decimal. So $2,000 is the principal. The rate is 5%, or 0.05, and it's for 3. So let's just take our calculator here, and I'm going to say 2,000 times 0.05 times 3. So she's going to pay $300 in interest. So what is the total amount she will repay? Well, she not only has to repay the $2,000 that she borrowed, obviously, but also the $300 in interest. So she's going to actually pay back $2,300 at the end of the loan by the time she pays everything back. Okay, let's look at this one here. So Nancy invested $6,000 in a bond at a yearly rate of 3%. She earned $450 in interest. How long did she invest the money? So we're going to use inverse operations to find this missing variable, which is the time. So I'm going to plug everything in where it belongs. The 450 is the interest, so it goes on where the I is. The 6,000 is the principal, and we know the rate. So now I'm just going to do the math I can. So I can go ahead and multiply 6,000 times 0.03 and narrow that down a little bit. So now I just have 180 T on this side. And now since 180 is multiplying the T, I'm going to divide by 180. So I'm going to divide both sides by 180. So we know how to do this when you just draw that line down the middle. So I'm going to take 450 and I'm going to divide it by 180. It's going to give it to me as 2.5 is equal to T. So that's 2.5 years, because it is going to give it to me back in years. Okay, so here we're moving it around again, but now we're going to be looking for the rate of interest. So he invested $4,000 in a bond for 30 months, and he earned $200 in interest. You can see that I changed the 30 months into 2.5, because if I took 30 and divided it by 12, right, because there are 12 months in a year, so 30 divided by 12, I'm going to get that 2.5. So that's where the 2.5 comes from. Remember, your time has to be in years. And so I'm going to do the math I can. I can take that 4,000 and I can multiply it by 2.5. So 4,000 times 2.5, that's where that 10,000 comes from. And now I'm going to divide by 10,000, right? I have to divide both sides by 10,000. Obviously, I'm going to get a decimal if I take 200 and I divide it by 10,000. So my rate is 0.02. Well, we want to look at our rate. That's a strange way to look at a rate. We want to make it a percentage. So I'm just going to multiply it by 100, which is the same thing as moving the decimal 2 times. So it's actually 2%. Let's do one more where we're going to find the interest again. So John's parents deposited $1,000 into a savings account as a college fund when he was born. How much will he have in this account after 8 years if he gets a simple interest rate of 3.25%? So I changed this into a decimal. Remember, just move the decimal over 2 times, and then I'm just going to find out how much interest he's going to earn. So I have 1,000 times 0.0325 times 18. He's actually going to earn $585. So now I'm going to add that to the total because how much will he have in the account? So make sure you follow the directions. So 1,000 plus 585, so $1,585. So now compound interest is a little different. Compound interest is the addition of interest to the principal sum of a loan or deposit, or in other words, interest on interest. So it is the result of reinvesting interest rather than paying it out. So that interest in the next period is then earned on the principal sum plus any accumulated interest. I know that all sounds very long and complicated, but basically what it's doing is if you have a loan that is, an investment, let's say, instead of having them pay you out your interest every year, you can just reinvest it into that savings account, and now you're going to be earning interest on the interest that you earned last year. So that's why they call it compound, because it just keeps adding up on itself. It's a little different formula. The final amount, and it's going to give you the final amount, it's going to add it to it, is going to be equal to the principal, or the original amount of investment, times 1 plus your percentage turned into a decimal, raised, so you can see this t is an exponent, raised to the time in years. So again, we're working with years. So let's come here. We're going to find the total amount in your account if you start with 750 at 7.5% interest for 2.5 years. So here's my interest, or here's my principal of 750. You can see I changed my percentage into a decimal, and then I invested it for 2.5 years. Use your calculator. You can do this all at one time. So I'm just going to clear this out. I'm going to do 750 parenthesis. Now your calculator knows that the parenthesis means multiplication. And I'm going to say 1 plus 0.075. Close your parenthesis and use your caret key because we're going to raise that to 2.5. I'm going to hit equal. Now, you don't have to add that to anything. That just gives you the amount. It automatically adds it to it. So your answer is you'll have $898.63. Remember, money only goes out 2 decimal places. So let's do the next one here. So now we're trying to find the principal. So we're moving things around a little bit. So I'm going to do all the math I can. How much should you invest at 7% to have 200 after 5 years? So when I look at this, I don't have the principal, but I certainly have my interest rate and my time. So I can put in what I have. I'm just going to clear this out. So I can take that 1.07 and raise it to the 5th. So I now have, I'm just going to move down here, I now have 200 is equal to 1.402 blah, blah, blah times P. I'm going to leave that in my calculator because I had to cut it off, but now I'm going to divide both sides by that, right? So this is just inverse operations. We've been doing this for a while. So I'm going to take 200 and I'm going to divide it by my previous answer, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow. I have to invest $142.60. Yep. We're going to move that around again. So if you put 100 in a bank at 4% interest and leave it until you are 60, how much money will you have? And this 46 right here assumes you're currently 14. So we kind of made your age up just because. So I put in my 100. There's the 1. I changed this 4% to 0.04, and I raised it to the 46. So I'm going to clear that out. It's getting kind of junky. So 100, parentheses, because again, your calculator knows that means parentheses, caret key, 46. You'll have $607.48. So let's do this last one. What about a mutual fund that pays 10% interest? So now we changed it. We're still going to use that 46 and the $100. So now I have $100, parenthesis, 1.1, because when I change 10% into a decimal, it's 0.1. You can put the 0 on. You don't have to. That's up to you. And then I'm going to raise it to the 46. $8,000. So that 6% interest change gave you a heck of a lot more money. So this is $8,017.95.